Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Why is Your Assistant the Secret Weapon for Developing Business? With VP of MAPS, Monica Reynolds. Please note this webinar is being recorded and you will automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have questions for your coach, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar taskbar. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's all for me, Monica. Take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Monica Reynolds here, and I'm excited to talk to you. You know, just to give you a little history, I dug the well when it came to assistants and team building. I wrote books in the 90s about how to hire your first assistant and multiply your success through an assistant. And one of the things that I learned right off, and I've been in real estate about 40 years now, is that I was a great salesperson. And I wasn't great at paperwork. I wasn't great at details. Being a high D, a triple D, that's not my strength. And yet I knew that I needed to leverage that. So when I hired my first assistant, it was one of the last things that I probably felt comfortable doing, yet I know I needed the help. I was a single mom, 3 kids, sole provider. So it was like, oh boy, now I've got another commitment. So, you know, what I like to say to someone who's on this call who hasn't hired an assistant, hire an assistant, have a 30-day plan of what needs to be successful and happen, and you will succeed at that. So when I hired my assistant, I didn't tell her it was a 30-day plan. I said, I'm hiring you. And based on the first 30 days, it was like the doors came off. You know, I went from 55 deals to over 100 deals the first year that she was there. And then the year after that, I hired another assistant, went to 200 deals. And that was in the 80s, and a lot of agents weren't doing those type of transactions, but I understood the word leverage really well. And leadership is about leverage. Leadership is not about managing. It's about leveraging great people. And I can tell you that real estate assistants have changed my life. They've changed my opportunities. And more importantly, too, they've changed the trajectory of my business because of what they did and how they could handle the customers at an extremely high level. And, you know, I always say that sometimes agents are water skiing on top when it comes to customers, and then the scuba diving is done by the assistants. So with that said, what can a real estate assistant mean to your business? So Steph, let's go to the next slide. So, you know, one of the things that you want to do is you want to create your operation success. And on your operation success, having your assistant in charge of the systems will improve efficiency. Steph, yeah, there you go. And one of the things that on this slide here is that they have to be in charge of the systems. Can you oversee them? Can you put input into them? Can you help create them possibly? Yes. But however, it's the person who creates a system owns the system. So I always try to give my assistants all those opportunities to build those things first. And then I go in and tweak them and make suggestions. And so you need to have operative excellence. Customer satisfaction. How do you answer a call from a customer when you're on a listing presentation? How do you handle a call from a customer, current, past, now, whatever, when you're doing your lead generation? You know, so it's so important to have that professionalism. So now there is a chat box in here. You can put some questions in. I'm happy to answer some. So put your questions as you go. I always say to someone, be sure that you have an office line or dedicated digital office line, whatever it happens to be. And that is that you want office hours. You want your assistant professionally answering those calls. And so in the assistant training, of course, I go into how an assistant unlicensed can answer those calls very professionally and basically tee up the ball for you. So customer satisfaction, we all know that there's a lot of people that want to make a phone call and get an answer. And there's a lot of personality types that do not like voicemail or waiting for you to get back to them a day later. That's not customer experience that we want. And I teach the assistants, and I'm going to mention it to you, that when you sign a listing agreement, it was for 6%. They look at 6% of the value of their home coming off the top. And so with that said, how do you treat that person? And if the cash register rings and out pops that 6% every day, are you taking care of that client? So competitive advantage. So if you're not serving your clients well, somebody else will. And so my thoughts to Zillow is shore up your database, create those relationships. You won't lose your clients to database. Is Zillow building massive databases? Have they asked agents for their database? Have they done just the most extraordinary things to build their new real estate company? Absolutely. And so customer satisfaction, competitive edge is building up that database and creating those experiences and creating those levels of commitment that you can do with communication. We can beat Zillow. Zillow's not a problem. Take your arms and put your arms around your database and really pay attention to that. Better decision-making processes. When you follow a decision, it becomes really apparent. And so one of the things that I've always taught is that there are systems that you need to have in your office that provide over-the-top excellent customer experience. Remember the 6%. And also, I always teach and to remind you that every client is worth 5 transactions the next 5 years if you take care of those clients and you build a customer for life. You know, I don't like using the term past client anymore. And so we're going to switch all of our wording. You might see some in here that hasn't been switched yet, from past client to client for life, CFL. We all like those initials, right? And Keller Williams, so CFL. So let's not think about the past. It's a client for life, meaning they're going to come back and again and again and again, and they can supply our business. So if you go to the next slide right now, Stephanie, you know, what are some of the things that the assistant can do? What are the secret weapons in your arsenal? Okay, build duplicatable and scalable systems. They are the CEO of the file. They absolutely follow a detailed checklist, a detailed system. So people ask me all the time, what's the first system that I should be looking at? What's the first system that we should be working on? And I said, you know, I'm going to there's several, but I'm going to step back on one. Closing systems is where you build that final relationship for repeat and referrals. That's where you get reviews. And so this is a critical one. So when you look at your closing systems, are you staying in contact? Is the client comfortable with all the different steps? Are you over communicating? It's not communicating, it's over communicating. Because as we all know, going through a closing, and if you haven't done it personally, it can get a little hairy. So who's the safe harbor? Who's putting their hand out? And so in training, I've got scripts for calling a client every single day during a closing, every single day during a listing. There's no such thing as getting fired because the client goes, you guys are communicating too much. It's always the other. You know, and when you look at NAR statistic, and I think it's 68% of the clients build other relationships like Zillow, like whoever, or don't care who they use. These are why, you know, the assistant is so critical in creating those systems so that the communication on a 1 to 10 is a 12. The experience on a 1 to 10 is a 12. You're getting a review from every client. You're getting a referral from every client. Agents do this. Agents do this in our ecosystem. So be sure to pay attention to what is it in your systems that need to be tackled first. It could be the database in command. It could be, you know, your listing system. It could be something in lead generation. It could be the client experience, working on a client appreciation party. Whatever it is, take one at a time to be successful. So increasing the database is a critical thing. And I always say in your numbers each month that you have a number that's in your database. So it has a growth trajectory. So name, address, phone, email, and of course, you know, the spouse too. So name, phone number, email, address. Phone number meaning cell, probably. I'm 99% now sure that that's all we're all using right now. So with that said, do you have completes on everyone? And if not, isn't that a great place for you as an agent to start and to role play with your assistant to go clean up that database also? So increasing that database. Gary Keller says 3 per day is a good goal. 3 completes, name, address, phone number, and email. All right. Develop repeat and referral business. There are some great agents, and I cover that in some classes called The Promise. And just to help you out today, if you write down the word Mike, M-I-K-E, Hicks, H is in Harry, I-C-K-S. There are a bunch of YouTube videos on the promise. This is a guy that gets 1 for 1. Every client gives him a referral during the process. Imagine that. His assistants are trained with the promise script. I've got it. I've written it out in the training. And yet, when somebody says something nice during the transaction, that's when you ask them, for the review. That's when you say, gosh, by the way, have you thought of anyone that we could help? Our business is based on referrals from great people like you. And so those kind of things are so powerful. Helping the client in past client, helping with client and past client events. I understand the COVID world. I've been in this office right here for over a year, sitting in the same chair, not going anywhere. And so I understand how difficult some of these things can be. However, there are agents who have figured out the COVID safety features by doing shredding, where you bring your documents to shred. They've done, which I think has been terrific too, Santa pictures, drive-by Santa pictures, drive-by pie giveaways. I mean, there's all kinds of things that they've come up with to stay in connection with that client. Vendor contributions. So I always ask on a vendor contribution, but these are relationships that I get a referral once a month from them. We give them our business, we pledge our business to them. And that's a great thing that the assistant can help with that accountability. And also they're the best place sometimes to start and say, I'm going to ask you, today's Monday, by next Monday, give me 3 names of someone you think would be a great assistant. I don't have to use your name. Maybe they have a job, maybe they don't have a job. I'm not going to poach Keller Williams, of course. Not going to do anything like that, but maybe you know that they might be looking around or they've been downsized. And so you say, do you know anyone? You say, give me 3 names. And you build these partnerships. And of course you expect over the top excellence anytime they're talking to a client. By the way, you're working with the best, team in the city type of thing. And that's what you're looking for. All right. So let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about, why are systems important? Because they're duplicatable and scalable. And so one of the things that I always talk about is that once you get these systems, they're not always done, check and done. They're about constant and never ending improvement. So the pre-list system, the pre-list package, the listing system, the price reduction system. And some of us aren't even having to look at that right now, that's another ball game, right? It'll come back, it always does. Closing systems, tracking numbers, profit and loss, P&L, tracking the bills. So what systems are important to you right now that you need to be thinking about? Obviously, missing up there is lead generation. Lead generation, they can help so much with that, whether you're using a call service or Mojo or scrubbing the list and making sure that you've got the do not call list in perfect order, because there's some challenges out there. We highly recommend that you get it from your market center, get the do not call list. Most of them have it. So pass the baton. What am I talking about here? So it's about the systems where so for example, in pass the baton, you're a listing agent. You come into the office, you throw the file down, you go, oh, it's a great listing, get it on the market. You gotta take the time to create the customer experience. So I have a whole form on the pass the baton where you spend 3 to 4 minutes and you're telling the assistant who's writing everything in, what's the motivation? Are they happy? They're sad. Sad is there was a death in the family. Sad they've lost their job. Happy is they got a job promotion. Happy they're moving. Happy they're retiring. Happy they're downsizing, upsizing, whatever it happens to be. Because that tonality then is different when the assistant goes into their first call. See, what I want to share with you is that you can't do it alone. And I'm not the big proponent that says to you, okay, you've got to have 42 people on your team. You got to be 7th level and 7th years. The most successful agents sometimes in my world, and I've been doing this for 25 years as a coach, they're 1 agent and 1 assistant. They have what we call the 7 circles of balance. They have more balance in their life because they're not worrying about 2 buyer agents. They're not recruiting. They're not hiring. And so if anything, for some of you, start with this and you can be highly successful and you can be highly profitable before you start to add with the team. But systems, you can attract agents with your systems. Now listen to that. You can attract great agents with your system. So when you have a listing system, to where the assistant then makes the first call within an hour, goes through the information, what's going to happen next. And then I always believe in the proponent here, or the suggestion is that the assistant calls every day. Now, if you have 50 listings, which not very many people have anymore, then it's not every day. When you have listings that sell every 2 or 3 days and they're not even hardly getting on the market, that's not a hard thing to do either. But let's say you have just a normal market of 30 days on the market, because remember, after 30 days, it's the wrong price, 21 days, and you know that. So with that said, it's the calls to the client, and I've got all those scripts written out. The bottom line is, the assistant is going to be trained, and you should also know this too, is that when you're calling a client, did I catch you at a good time? You're respectful of their time. Do you have a couple of minutes? So you're setting the stage. It's not going to be an all afternoon call. Hey, do you have a couple minutes? Did I catch you at a good time? Well, I don't know, I'm in the middle. Let me call you back. I don't want to disturb you. I understand how busy you are right now. Be respectful of their time. Now, in the assistant world, they're going to say that your name, I'll just use my name, Monica asked that I call you as part of our customer service and let you know blah, blah, blah about the sign, or let you know blah, blah, blah about the showing. Now, so let me just switch a gear here, because we're all, showing time and Zillow. I've never liked showing time personally. I've never promoted showing time, and I know it's all the digital world. However, write these things down. Here's what I say should be done. I believe in calling the agent. The assistant calls the agents, and there's a couple of reasons. One, you're going to get direct feedback. So the assistant would call, hi, it's Stephanie. I'm calling on behalf of Monica. Thank you so much for showing that property, 123 Cherry Street this afternoon. May I ask you 3 quick questions? It'll take 2 minutes. They say, sure. First question, if you want to write this down. First question is, write this down. Is your buyer going to make an offer? Okay. Number 2, what would it take for your buyer to make an offer? And number 3, what price do you feel the property will sell for? Well, right now, we don't need to make some of those calls because the offers come flying in. So remember, I get the market, I understand the market, and yet it's always good to know if you do need to do some follow-up on some showings. Those are 3 great questions. So is your buyer going to make an offer? What would it take for your buyer to make an offer? Number 3, what do you think it'll sell for? Your assistant says, thank you very much, blah, blah, blah. Now, I train the assistants that anyone that's not Keller Williams, that you put in a spreadsheet for the assistant to look up the production and start to track who these agents are that are calling about these listings and showing them, because that might be future growth for you if you want that. But that's a way you can attract. Or, okay, so number 3 reason, first it's the seller, get seller information. Number 2 is to absolutely look at that agent as possibly a team member. And number 3, a possible recruit for Keller Williams for your downline. Keller Williams is exploding and growing like crazy right now. Get on board, and the assistant can help with that. All right, Steph, let's go to the next page. It's all about the systems. So, okay, so one of the things, and I wanted to remind everyone that Gary asked that the database be increased 3 per day, 60 per month, name, address, phone number, and emails. I've talked about that. How can you do all this and go out and do your job description? What's your job description? Shall I tell you? Here's your reminder. You lead generate, you lead follow-up, you go on appointments, you write contracts, and then the 5th one is your role play. So writing contracts, negotiating, 5th one is role play. Those have a $sign next to it. So I always say to agents, when you're putting your schedule together in the morning or the evening before, put $signs next to the activities that make you money. Everything else is stuff. And yet the database is your biggest asset and most important. Who is guarding it? Who's growing it? Who's using the systems that are available there? Organizing your database. What percentage comes from your database? So let me share another tip with you. And that is that if you have a database and I asked you what's your percentage of referrals, you might say 35%. And I say, hey, that's pretty good. Give me the breakdown. What? Give me the breakdown. What? Give me the breakdown. Okay, there's 5 categories of referrals. Write this down. Agent referrals from the Keller Williams system or wherever else, right? Agent referrals. Team referrals from your assistant. Your assistants bring in, so can have a whole different group of people. How many in their cell phone, in their contacts? How many in their Facebook? How do you co-market and get those people into your database with a field that says their initial, right? Okay, so we've got team and we've got agent. Vendor. I expect one referral from a vendor every single month. Do I get it? No, but they know that we need to be in partnership. I get at least one a quarter for sure, okay? All right, so we've got vendor referral. That's a critical one. Past client, which I'm going to call client for life. Are you getting those from your past clients, from current clients that did a transaction with you? And then, of course, COI, Center of Influence, SOI, Sphere of Influence, whatever you want to call. Those are all separate categories. So what are the percentages being broken out? Should you be doing those numbers? No, that's what your assistant does. Because your job description is you lead generate, you follow up, you go on appointments, you negotiate, write contracts, and you role play. Do the dollar signs, do the dollar producing activities. Don't get caught up in these systems. And I know I've been an agent there. I get caught up in the systems because I didn't want to do something that was dollar producing. I was trying to avoid everything I could. Should you inspect what you expect? Absolutely. Great bold law, isn't it? All right. So what percentage comes from your database? Really analyzing that. All right, let's go to the next slide, Stephanie. How do you develop repeat and referral business? You know, thanks so much for saying that. You know, may I ask you a favor? Our business is based on reviews from great clients like you. And I don't know about, I'm going to have to change this. I'm going to send you a link to Zillow. I'm going to send you a link to realtor.com, Yelp, etc. And would you be so kind as to give us a great review today? So when somebody says something nice, that's when you ask for the review. That's when you ask for the review. And then during the process of the referral, you or your team is saying, by the way, thanks for working with our team. We so appreciate your business. You know, our business is based on referrals from great clients like you. Who do you know right now is thinking about buying or selling? Oh, you can't think of anyone. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to ask from time to time. And so those are the critical things, but is it on your assistant's checklist? Do you have it on your closing and your listing checklist? Your goal is to get one referral out of that client during the process of the transaction. Those are critical things, okay? All right, the next slide we're going to go to, and put your questions in the chat box so I can help you. You know, I've never been a big proponent of hosting clients in past events because being a D, the last thing you want to do is go socialize, right? And yet, we need to build these connections. This is how we fight Zillow, is when we put a moat around our database, and the assistant is the best one to do that. They will change the trajectory of your business. So going through different virtual events, photo shoots, drive-through events, you know, I've got a system now that we teach in the Perfect Real Estate Assistant too. And one of the things is that whenever someone comes to get a free pie or to a shredding party, there's a clipboard that they fill out. I know, COVID safe, gloves, the whole deal. We got all that figured out, where they sign in, and then they say, then at the bottom it says for an extra pie or a gift card Amazon or a bottle of wine, you know, check the one, please give us a referral. There would be people that would just sit there and go, hey, come back. I need to go through my phone. I know somebody's going to be moving, because they wanted that $15 bottle of wine. They wanted that $15 gift card. So two ladies, one in Florida, one in Alaska. Each one of them had about 500 people. They each got between 65 and 75 leads of referrals that led to business. You know, 10% led to business right away. So it's amazing when you do that. But those are just the things, and putting together a policy and procedures manual. And so so the Perfect Real Estate Assistant class is going to be starting soon. And those are the things. So you're never hostage to systems. You're never hostage to, gee, this is a situation or marketing. Everything is laid out, and it's categorized and memorialized, as they like to say. Okay, the next screen is, you know, Gary Keller taught me this, and I never thought about it. You know, culture is a way of life of a group of people. It includes behaviors, beliefs, and values. This is accepted without thinking about it. And it's passed along in communication, you know, and your assistant is your secret weapon who contributes to all of these. So culture is all about the team experience and how you treat each other with kindness. The other thing about culture is the customer experience and how you treat that customer and what you say when the phone hangs up. And I've been guilty to where we go, oh my gosh, in my real estate office, that guy is nuts, you know. And I think back on that, that was such a wrong tonality to get through the office, because then we all treated that guy a little differently. We should highly respect everyone and treat them at the highest level. And I'm going to use the word kindness again, because I think we get away from that. Lead generation, any of the systems like listing, any kind of systems like recruiting, the customer experience, letters that go out, marketing systems for Facebook, for just listed, just sold, repeat and referral. And what's the contribution to the community? So I have a whole system on how to give back to the community. So for an example, on a listing, once the listing is signed, I would present them, and I share this in assistant training. Here is a form, and it can be $100, $200, whatever you want it to be. At the successful close of your home, we would like to contribute to one of these charities. And the charity that, you know, that San Diego was Wounded Warriors. We have 100,000 military in San Diego, or, you know, Red Cross, et cetera, Cancer Society, all of those things were listed, or other where they could tell us where they'd like the money to go to. So it's just a great way to give back. And I think what I'm trying to share with you, your assistant is a secret weapon. They build the business proficiently, they build the customer service, and yet they're in charge of the culture also. And so remember that as you grow your team and as you hire people. So the bottom line in my whole thing is that when you have a great assistant and you have what I call, you know, you pour into them with some training, you pour into them with conversations, you're getting their buy-in, their respect, you're having them help build things, then you're going to build the most amazing real estate career. You don't need to have 25 people on your team, and if you do, it's great. You gotta have that first assistant, then that second assistant to build that hub, and then as your team grows, that director of operations. And so all of those people are the most important hires because they are the keeper of the culture. All the systems is part of the culture. How you treat people, all the scripts is part of the culture. So we have to think of that in a broad sense. So one of the things, Stephanie, let's go to the next slide real quick, and then I'll open it up for any questions or anything in the chat box. I'm here to help. So Wednesday, March 17th, there will be the next Perfect Real Estate Assistant class. Like I said, I wrote the books, I dug the well, had thousands and thousands of agents and assistants go through. Agents and assistants, you're saying, yes. The first call every month is to help you be a great leader. There's massive turnover sometimes for agents in their hires, and it's a lack of, I think, communication. It's not setting the right expectations, and of course, the hiring process. Visioning is great for that. I also have a hiring process in this. That's why this class is great for agents without assistants also. First call every month is for agents. The second and the third call are for assistants. You end up with a 450-page policy and procedures manual. You don't have to reinvent the wheel at all. And the investment is $199 a month for 6 months. Now, let me talk to you real quick, and then Stephanie, let's look in the chat box. Tell me what the questions are. I want you to think about this. Think about your role as an assistant, okay? Is your agent sticking to their job description, or are they in the files? And then if they are, then you need to become the CEO of the file. And the agent should never be in those files. Should you give them weekly updates? Of course. And I give you the forms for that. Should you have a conversation with the agent if there's a red flag or something went a little sideways or a conversation caused you, well, I better tell the agent that? That's just common sense. And I know you guys have that. So when you look at hiring that one assistant, you can easily double your business in 1 year. You can easily double it in 1 year. I did it. The fact that I wasn't doing those things and I wasn't calling signs up and I wasn't losing lockbox after lockbox because I couldn't remember if I picked it up, didn't pick it up, where is it? Oh, well, whatever. And so I want you to hear that too, is that building these systems for customer service, getting your marketing plans together, protecting and guarding that database, tracking numbers, keeping you accountable on your schedule. So in a nutshell, a secret weapon does this. They handle all incoming phone calls. Imagine that. And if you're there, they can pass the call to you if it's a new buyer or seller, right? If not, they know how to handle that call. Second thing is they handle all paperwork. I would love it if you didn't even know where the files were. That would be awesome. And the third thing is they keep you on schedule. They're going to get a copy of your schedule every day. They're going to keep you accountable, and they're going to make sure that you roll through your schedule. They're going to confirm appointments for you. They're going to set you up on your listings, set you up for your DocuSign or anything that's you're selling. It's going to be amazing, amazing. So with that said, let's go back and have some questions here. So Stephanie, what kind of questions do I have right now?
Okay, Monica, so the first question is, taking care of the database, is that the job of the agent or the assistant?
The assistant is the comptroller of the database. Should the agent have a weekly, monthly number? Yeah, I'd like to have a monthly number for sure. Every month, how many did we add? What was our total last month? What's our new total this month? How many opted out? I'm looking at my database. And then the most important thing in the database, what did we do to that database? Did we send out a video? Did we send out an email once a week? What was our contact into that database? So that's where the assistant comes into play for a marketing plan quarterly. I used to do a yearly plan, and you can have a yearly overall plan, but that quarterly plan, what are you going to do quarterly? Okay, good. All right, what's next, Steph?
Okay, so next, Kelly says, I have an assistant starting this month. Is this perfect timing, or should I wait until they are in the role for a little bit?
You know, this is a great question, and thank you for asking that. You couldn't have timed it better. Whether they're newer in the business, just joined, put them in this call because they will get the big, broad picture. Can they put all the systems into place that I'm going to give? No, but they now have a call that's recorded, and it's a Zoom call, so I get to see who they are too. So it's a Zoom call with everybody's face showing, you know, and so if she or he gets on this call, their new assistant, they will start to hear the broad picture. So March 17th is the first call for agents, and I go over the program. I go over how to be a great leader. I make sure you have the right assistant. There's a whole bunch of things that I help you with that. I wrote the book on that literally. Okay, good. All right, what's next, Steph? So sign up. That'd be great for you. Sign up.
So Monica, what would you suggest if they do not have any written systems?
Well, I say number one, at the bottom of this page, you see mapscoaching.com/group, find the perfect real estate assistant, and there's your systems. So I appreciate that you don't have any systems down. So whether you're one agent and you're getting ready to hire an assistant, I always say to an agent, if you don't have systems, this course is for you. It's basically about systems. You know, the first ones that I talk about are on communication to the sellers and the buyers, and it's communications systems between other agents and between your assistant. Then the next is job descriptions, and I go through job descriptions for buyers, for ISAs, for buyer agents, for ISAs, for assistants, DOs, you know, showing specialists. I do all the job descriptions in the 30, 60, 90s. So you would have that. Now, so valuable so far, right? Then I go into a listing system with all the thank you letters, all the lead generation letters, Facebook ads, etc. Then I go into closings, and I go into customer service, goal setting, numbers. And so every single month is a category. There at the end of 6 months, 18 calls, you'll have a 450-page policy and procedures manual that I update constantly and add new material. Everyone who's taken the course, that's where they're getting the systems. And it may be a system you're not ready to work on just yet, but at least you have all the information. So if you want to have a client appreciation party, I've got a system 6 months out, what you do. You may not want to do it at this point during the year, but now you've got a tab in a policy and procedures book that says client appreciation parties, you got all the suggestions and all that information how to do it great. So that's how I get granular into that. Okay, what's next, Steph?
Okay, so Daniel's asking, do you use a project management software for your assistants, such as Slack, Trello, or Asana? And how often do you have meetings with your assistants? Every morning, every other day?
You know, I know a lot of people have mentioned Trello works really well for them, and that's great. Some people are just doing command, and some people are just doing a combination of their CRM, whether it's command and then paper files. Okay, so let me talk to you about that. Come back, circle around. So communication, you should have a huddle every morning with your assistant, not till after lead generation. So you come in, you do the wave to your assistant, good morning, how are you, talk to you soon. And then you go head down, do your lead generation. 11 o'clock is a 15-minute huddle meeting. And if you've got one assistant, I firmly believe at 4:30 during the day, you call in or you see your assistant to get a recap of the day. And these are the things that I'm looking for. What are the 3 things you accomplished today? Okay, I have a whole form for this in training. What are the 3 things that are top priorities tomorrow at the end of the day, right? And any questions you have, it's all filled out in a form so that they can keep it on a clipboard, and as things come up, they're writing them down so they remember everything, because we have so many things that we're juggling with a real estate transaction and the real estate world right now. So great question. Then you have you have a quarterly meeting, you have a monthly meeting where you recap all the numbers, and then obviously you have a year-end meeting. So I go through all of that in the communication part of what I do on the training. So great question. Okay, what's next, Steph?
Okay, next, Monica, is, has the content changed for the Perfect Assistant class from prior years?
Oh gosh, yes.
I could answer that question.
Yeah, Steph, we rewrite every single week, you know, adding new stuff and things. So for example, I have a whole COVID process, right? I have COVID scripts, right? I have Zoom processes. But more importantly, I have Facebook and lead generation things that have happened. So is it timely? Is it market of the moment? Yes, I have command things in there. And if you're not into command, they're basic CRM, check on your CRM, see that it's doing this. The other thing that I think is timely is that we've added some of the things from the MREA, we've added things from Shift. We're constantly tweaking it and adding to the program. So of course, it's totally different. There are teams that literally just put their assistants through over and over and over again, because the first time you hear, it's like when somebody says, well, did you go to family reunion? Yeah. Now that, and then what'd you get? And you go 3, 4 things. If you go back and listen, which you have family reunion at your tips right now, you hear it again differently. You go, oh, I missed that. Oh, I missed that. So I always say the first time you come to the Perfect Real Estate Assistant, it's overwhelming. There's 450 pages of policies, procedures, checklists, letters, tips, things to do. They can't do it all. They're going to pick the few. So I always say if they do 12 things to move your business forward, 12 new things out of this whole class, that's going to be extraordinary. 12 to 18 is the goal. And I have them write out what they're going to work on first. When I look back at this program, you know, when someone comes in, and I've had, you know, assistants who have been in the business 15 years, what's this for me? I've already doing this. And they will now send me an email going, oh my gosh, it's so great to get those scripts. It's so great to get those tweaks on, you know, how to handle appraisals and how to, you know, your first, you know, how to handle multiple offers. So we go through a lot of those things. And of course, I always have a little ... If you're licensed, you can do this. If you're not licensed, you know, you can't do this. So I'm really clear to keep you out of the licensing jail. Okay. What's next, Steph?
Okay, so with the Perfect Assistant, should I wait until I actually have an assistant? And can I use my VA assistant, or should I have an on-site assistant?
Well, okay, so you don't want to wait till you have an assistant. All the calls are recorded. It starts in March. It goes for 6 months, and then 2 months after that, the calls. So for 8 months, you have all the recorded calls. All the materials are available to you for 8 months. A lot of the virtual assistants have taken this class, and it's very, very helpful. So if you have a virtual, it's great to put them on the class. And so I'm going to say to you, to answer your question, get on the class now. And if you're going to be in the process of hiring one, they can always go back and pick up the first 2 calls, the first 3 calls, whatever it happens to be. Because remember, in March, there's going to be 3 calls, 1 for you, 2 for the assistant. So if you're in the process of March of hiring someone, all they'd have to go back and listen is to 2 calls. I'm your best advocate. I teach the assistants to be professional, to look at the bottom line, to handle that customer like they've got $15,000 written on their forehead, if that's your average commission, or $5,000. I teach them the value of how to treat people with kindness during this process. You know, it's a very difficult process for a listing. It's a very difficult process for a sale. And so being understanding and having those scripts to negotiate repairs or negotiate appraisals, negotiate, you know, moving target of the lender, there's all those great things on how to do that. Understanding personality styles, understanding the KPAs. I got all that. I help you with all that. So sign up wherever you are in the world, just sign up. Okay, what's next, Steph?
Okay, so if I already have a transaction coordinator, do I need to keep them, or does an executive assistant replace the transaction coordinator?
I need to know your production, so I'll just state that I don't know your production, so I'll give you the rules. Somewhere between 35 and 45, you hire your first full-time assistant. When you go past 50, you're going to hire your second part-time or full-time assistant. I'm a big proponent. So if you're doing 100 transactions, you should have 2 full-time. If you're doing 75 transactions and growing, and you're going to bring on a buyer showing agent following the model, then you definitely would have 2 full-time by the time you're at 75. Now, the budget has to be able to afford it. And I'm real clear, and Gary always says, when you have the need, you have the need. If you have the budget, you have the budget. And those are some guidelines there. The key thing, though, that I want you to hear is that you hire them when you need them. And having a virtual assistant on the call is perfect. If you're in the middle of thinking about hiring, get the systems down. I have a lot of agents who really want to see the systems, because then when you hire someone, you're going to say, okay, here's the listing system I have. Here's the one from the Perfect Real Estate Assistant. Let's take a look at our checklist. Let's take a look at our letters and see how we can make them better. Everything I give you is a blueprint. All I want you to do is to have some very precise systems on a scale of 1 to 10. The customer experience is a 12. Okay, all right, that's repeat and referral business. What's next, Steph?
Okay, so next would be, do you have your assistant handle appraisal issues and resolution items?
Yes, if they're licensed and they've been trained by you and role played with you. My assistants that I trained were better at negotiating than me. All I wanted to do as a high D is just cave in and go, okay, we'll take care of that. Okay, never mind. Okay, we'll take care of that. And when you role play with a great assistant, they can very precisely, through the scripts that I've developed, is setting the expectation on the appraisal. Number 1, setting expectation. It may come in lower than the sales price. And then there's 4 options that we can cover. And here they are. You know, being you know, confident in those conversations is about role playing. And yes, a licensed assistant can talk about price, terms, and condition. And Stephanie will tell you, when I had my team in San Diego before I took the job of vice president of maps here at Keller Williams, we had a guy on our team, Charlie, and he was 10 times better negotiator than I was. And he was a listing manager. So when an offer came in on a listing, he would negotiate that. And he was great at training some of the buyer agents on how to negotiate. He was extremely, very, very good. And yet he was very diligent about role playing once a week with me situations. And if he had a kind of a hard thing coming up, we'd role play it so he could maneuver through that. So it's all about confidence and it's about skills. And I've got scripts, got lots of scripts. What else, Steph?
How many units do you think they should be doing just to hire a part-time assistant? And do you think it's a good idea to hire a part-time assistant?
I think if you've got the budget to hire a part-time assistant, watch my rules. Let's just say we got to pay $15 an hour and you're going to hire someone at 20 hours. That's $300 a week. That's $1,200 a month. Your average commission is $10,000. I guarantee you, if you got out of the minutia of 20 hours a week of the database, of the marketing, of the Facebook, of processing the listing, calling down the sign, calling up the sign, go get the lockbox, take the lockbox off, whatever. When you look at all that stuff that they can do for you, and take care of a client, would you have 80 hours? Could I think that you could possibly have one more sale? Yes, I would hope you'd have 4 more sales, an extra sale a week. So when your budget can afford it, I would do it. So if you've got $1,200 and you can put it to the side here, go do it. See what happens. I mean, it's incredible. Yes. And learn your job description, lead generate, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate, role play, write contracts. That's it. You got nothing else. Everything, those are dollar signs. So in your schedule today, agents, how many dollar signs do you have? Okay, what's next, Steph?
Okay, so I says, I have no systems in place other than the systems in command. Is this still a good class and time for me to start it?
Yes, and I'll keep saying that, to you guys. If you don't have an assistant, 35% of this class is for agents who don't have assistants that wants to start the systems, because a lot of them have said to me, I'm too embarrassed to bring on an assistant because I don't have any systems. At least I'll have your manual and say, here's where we're going to work from. And then you can put them in the class again, and then you've got a great basis. So if you don't have an assistant, this is a great class for you. Highly recommend it. You will have all the systems that I talked about. The second thing is that I'd go through a hiring process on one of the calls, and it's the one that complements career visioning. And it's the one that I've used for years, because there wasn't career visioning till a few years ago. There, was Recruit Select a few years ago, and I've had this system, like I've been doing this for 40 years. It's a pretty clear-cut system how to find them, how to get them trained, in the process of the 30, 60, 90, which I wrote for career visioning anyway. Okay, what's next, Steph?
Monica, how do you pay your assistants?
Oh, every area is different. So in San Diego, the average sales price is about $825,000. So, I'm going to just state that you have to pay them a fair wage to where they can pay their bills. Most administrative assistants are not entrepreneurs. They don't have the mindset of, commission sale mindset. So I say pay your assistants fairly and so that they can pay their bills, and don't do something crazy like a percentage of the business. That's such a no-no. Do not do that. And then I always paid my assistants bonuses on every closing. So it could be a $25 bonus on every closing, a $50, wherever you want to start. We never talked about the base salary, always changed, it was the same. If you paid someone $15 an hour, full time, it's about $30,000 a year. And yet maybe Louisiana might be a little bit less. I don't know. So every market, you've got to find out what's the appropriate pay for someone to have a good base salary. But I always want to tie them into how much business we were doing. So I always said, I'll never discuss your base salary. What I will discuss, at the end of the year, is how to raise your bonus up on closings. Makes life easier when you don't have to negotiate salaries every year. Okay, good question. Thank you. What else?
Okay, so command has been difficult for me to use. How can I help an assistant learn it, or do I let them just figure it out?
There's a couple of routes that I share with everybody. There's tons of videos with command. Your market center should have command training. So I would go to your market center first. The second thing is each region has a regional tech trainer, RTT. I would reach out to them and ask them where are specific videos or some training that you're looking for if you can't find it. The other thing is, anytime I want to do something, I'm going to be honest, I got to learn something like opportunities or doing something, I'll go on YouTube and Google it. And there it is. I mean, I'll go on YouTube and request, okay, command database tips or command Facebook, and it's all there. There's tons of videos there. So I always like to have an assistant put in their schedule at least an hour of command training when they first get started, if not more. One morning might be 3 hours of looking at various videos. But ask your market center what training they have weekly, monthly, and make sure you guys are all signed up for that. Personally, as an agent, delegate it off. And sometimes, you know, millennials, et cetera, and the younger, they come with the genius of understanding databases pretty quick and intuitively how they work. It's amazing how that works. All right, good. What's next, Steph?
What are your thoughts on virtual assistants? Mine is from Cyberbacker.
Okay, good. I love Cyberbackers. They're great virtual assistants, and I think they do well. I would start them off with database marketing, Facebook, behind the scenes type of things. And then I would work with them if you're going to get them involved into client interactions. But there's so many behind the scenes. Cyberbacker is a great company. Highly recommend it. And I would put them through the assistant class if you're going to build some systems with them, and they're highly capable of doing it. Highly recommend that. So again, the class is on March 17th. Sign up today, mapscoaching.com/group. Whether you're a new agent, new assistant, old assistant, I guarantee you it's a Zoom call. We have lots of fun, and all the systems, if you've taken the class before, are all rebuilt and new. We work on it every single week. So, all right, who's next, Steph?
Okay, so currently using a contract to close system at my market center. At what point does it make sense to transition away and hire my own assistant? My current production was 15, my current production in first year was 15 transaction, and on track this year to close 26.
You know, you're a prime example of, you know, the market center, and I never want to take away from that, because culturally wise, you know, there's some really great ones contract to close out there. So you're in the right spot right now. So when you get into that 20 range, that's when you need to say to yourself, I'm going to duplicate this and more again next year. So you're having a great track record. You're having a great story. And yet I would say to you, you know, why not join the class and learn some of these systems? And then maybe it's a part-time virtual assistant. Maybe it's a part-time person to come in and help you 10 hours a week. So you're getting in the sweet spot. Once you get to that 20 transactions, then start thinking to yourself, okay, where do I get that help that I need? And so I said that 35 to 45 range is when you hire your first full-time assistant. So start taking like 10% out of every check and start building up your assistant leverage fund, so that when you do hire someone, you're not going to be concerned about the money. It's going to be an investment in your future. Okay, good. What's next, Steph?
Okay, so 2 questions about the course itself. Number 1, it is on the 17th. What time is it? And after you go through the course, how long is the material available?
Okay, so I believe it's at 12 o'clock. Is that correct, Stephanie?
12 o'clock Pacific time is my understanding. So
oh, okay, that's right. It's 12. You're right. That's right. It got changed. It's 12 o'clock Pacific. And that would make it 1 o'clock Mountain, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. The material is recorded. It's a live Zoom call, and all the material and the recordings are available immediately to listen to again. Then when the call is over in 6 months, March, April, May, June, July, August, when it's over in August, the materials in the calls are available for 2 more months. So you get September and October, all 18 calls are available to you. And of course, my email is monica@kw.com. Anytime you have a question about the materials, anytime you have a question about something, I can answer it really quickly through email. When I have time, occasionally I can pick up the phone, understanding the job I have here. And so I want you to hear that I want to help you, because this is what changed my client's life, but most importantly, changed my life also, by having that leverage and knowing what lane I need to stay in. Okay, good. What's next, Steph?
Okay, Monica, we have come to the end of our questions.
Okay, good. Hey, everyone. Thanks for being on this call. That was great. I know it's Arsenic Monday. Who does a call on Monday? But we did, and you showed up, and I appreciate that. Thanks, everybody. Sign up, mapscoaching.com/group. Go to the Perfect Real Estate Assistant. Can't wait to see you on those live calls. I will help you be a great leader if you're an agent listening to this call. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks, Angel. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.